Hey, what is up YouTube? Kolst here. So we had a new patch 23.2.2 which came out today. It was also announced today. Well, it was announced previously, but the patch notes just came out today. So I'm going to talk about all of these because there were, I believe, 20 cards that are having balance changes, mostly buffs. And I think all of them are in Arena, and most of them are actually pretty relevant in Arena too. So we're going to talk about all of these. And I also am going to pull up, I have my tier list here. This is the old version of the tier list. I'm going to be making changes to it to address some of these changes, also including the micro adjusts and other changes that happened, what, a week or two ago? So without further ado, let's get right into it. So we'll start with all of these changes. These are the card updates. The first one here, this is probably one of the least relevant in Arena. This is Drekthar. You never triggered Drekthar anyway. Now, if you could theoretically trigger it, you only get one minion instead of two. You were never triggering this, so this is pointless. So let's move on. If I mentioned these are the three nerfs, this is multi-strike. This one is very relevant for Arena. It was a rare card, so it wasn't super common, but it had the new set offering bonus. So it's going from 1 mana to 2. This card is still, it was completely broken. It's still going to be good. It's not going to be just as broken, but it's still going to be a good card. So it does hurt Demon Hunter a little bit, but Demon Hunter will survive. They have other good cards. And the third one here is Dragonbane Shot. This is a pretty harsh nerf to this card. I think they're targeting Quest Hunter with this and Constructed, but yeah, Dragonbane Shot was alright, and now it's terrible. It's not like unpickable, but you're not going to want this, and Hunter's already bad, but Hunter's getting other buffs, don't worry, we'll get to that very soon. These three cards, if you have them in your collection, by the way, you can go dust them for full value, so especially if you have extra copies, I recommend doing this, and I mean, unless you want to play Quest Hunter, I would just dust these two. I already dusted these on all my accounts. With that, let's move on to the buffs. So there are, as I said, like I think 17 different cards being buffed. The first one here is, they are buffing a couple Colossals. The first one on the list here, Zillag. This is the Demon Hunter Colossal. I think I had it rated as the third weakest Colossal, above the Priest one, which is being buffed, we'll talk about, and the Druid one, which is not being buffed. But now, basically, Zillag, it does exactly what it did, but instead of starting at 1 damage, it starts at 2. So the turn you played, it deals 8 damage instead of 4. It's a very, very significant buff. It probably won't make it the best Colossal, but it's going to be, it's going to be a lot better than it was. So I guess if you don't like these kind of crazy cards, at least Demon Hunter doesn't discover this too often, but yeah, you'll be seeing more Zillags. We're moving on to Hunter. There were a few buffs for Hunter here. The first one is Harpoon Gun. Harpoon Gun, already one of Hunter's best cards. Now, they're buffing it by a little bit. This might not be super relevant for Arena, but it's still a 3 mana 3/2 weapon, but instead of reducing the cost of a beast that you dredge, if you get a beast, it reduces the cost by 3 now instead of 2. Hunter doesn't actually have that many beasts, like it does, but it does just make the high roll of this a little bit better. It's probably a pretty small change overall, but Hunter is getting a little better from that because it's one of their more common cards. It's a rare, but you see it a lot, and you obviously pick it when you get it. The next one we have here is Pet Collector. This is going from a 5 mana 3/3 to a 5 mana 4/4. So that's just definitely going to make it significantly more pickable. This bug is right in my face. Go away. Okay, that was dealt with. That rude interruption. But anyway, so as it was, like if you get like a 3/3 and then you imagine like a 5 or less beast, like assuming you have beasts, which you usually have at least a few, right? If you get like another 3/3, 5 mana for 2 3/3s would be like good enough. Now this is just like, now it would be a 4/4 and a 3/3, so it's just the average case is just a little bit better, right? So it's going to make this card a bit more pickable, which is going to help Hunter a lot. This is a common, so it's a card you are offered very often. And another card which is being buffed here is the Asheron Saber. This was a 4 mana 3/3 rush, which put the Sunken Saber into your deck. They are improving both the copies from 4 mana 3/3s to 4 mana 4/3s. So as it was, this thing a 4 mana 3/3 rush was just a little bit too weak, because you wouldn't really get to abuse this too well on average, so it just wasn't really worth it. But now a 4 mana 4/3, that's much better. Still not amazing by today's standards, but Again, just makes it a bit more pickable. So overall, like, these are all kind of mild buffs for Hunter. May push you in the beast direction a little bit more than before, but this isn't going to suddenly make Hunter amazing for sure, but it'll help, right? Anything will help Hunter right now. I actually do feel like Hunter's better than the win rates indicate, because it seemed alright when I've played with it, but maybe I've been lucky, who knows. But we'll talk about the balance of the classes later. So with that, let's move on to the next buffs, which are the priest buffs here. The first one is, as we mentioned before, the priest Colossal is going from, the card is staying exactly the same, but it's just going to 7 mana. So I think that's going to be a pretty big deal, because it does exactly the same thing that it did, but just coming a turn later, that can make a big difference for just whether or not, you know, you can hit it on a board that you want to hit it before your opponent, you know, gets a wider board where it might not work as well, or, you know, just not dying on turn 7, basically, because you get to play this a turn early. So it will help a priest a tiny bit, but it's only, you know, it's still going to be not as strong as some of the other broken legendaries for sure, and it is a legendary, although the Colossals are basically at epic offering rate, so you will see it a bit more, so it'll help priest a little bit. And the other buff for priest, there are actually 2 more buffs, but the second one's not too important. The first one here is Whirlpool, which is going from 9 mana to 8 mana. Again, kind of a similar thing, that just being able to play that a turn earlier, sometimes you might have died on turn 8, now you can blow up the board on turn 8, so it's basically a glorified Twisting Nether now. So that will help them as well, kind of the same thing, but it's an epic, so you won't see it too often. And the last one here we have is Shadowcloth Needle. Oh, there's actually another one after this. 4 buffs for priest. This one, Shadowcloth Needle, is going from 2 mana to 1 mana. The thing is that this thing was pretty unplayable because you just don't expect to have enough shadow spells in Arena, so you just wouldn't really want to pick this because you won't even know necessarily that this will be good. So I guess it helps, but this one's kind of irrelevant. And then the last one is the buff to Serpent Wig. This was give a minion +1/+1, and if you have Nagas and you can chain Nagas repeatedly, you could theoretically repeat this. The issue with it is that you just wouldn't have Nagas. The fact that you wouldn't have enough Nagas at least to really get significant value out of it. Now it's just a 1 mana 1/2 buff though, and I mean a 1 mana 1/2 buff is a lot better than a 1 mana 1/1 buff, so that's significant. But again, this is an epic, so you're just not going to see it that much. So overall, priest is getting a little bit better, but this isn't really going to be super significant for them. What will be much more significant, however, is the buffs to rogue we have here, because rogue is getting Tooth of Nefarian buffed. The rogue mains I saw constantly tweeting on Twitter finally got what they wanted, which was Tooth of Nefarian to 2 mana. And I mean, Tooth of Nefarian was already one of the most common and very good rogue cards at 3 mana, in Arena at least. So going to 2 mana makes it significantly better as well. Can be a very big difference because, you know, just for example, like on turn 4, being able to do this plus dagger to be able to kill a 4 health minion, it's a very big buff to this card. And it's common, so rogue is really going to like this. The next one here is SI7 Smuggler. They're actually, ironically, reverting it to the bugged version. The bugged version, for a long time, SI7 Smuggler was bugged because it would start at 1 cost. And now they're changing it to actually start at 1 cost. So that does make it quite a bit better. You still aren't probably going to want to pick it super highly or go SI7s just for this, but it becomes slightly playable just by getting a 1-drop, so that will help rogue as well, because again, this is one of their commons, and I believe they're straight up reverting the Wildpaw Knoll change as well. This is very significant as well, because Wildpaw Knoll as a 6 mana 3/5 was pretty much unpickable in Arena. As a 5 mana 4/5, it is very pickable in Arena, because even if it doesn't get discounted, it's okay, and if you do happen to discount it, then it's amazing. And 2 more changes for rogue here. The first one is the legendary Tessgray main, going from 8 mana to 7 mana, so probably, honestly, in Arena, you would probably not be playing this on curve too often anyway. Maybe you might if you happen to get a really good death rattle off of like Reconnaissance or something and you just want to get another one. So there is a chance that this is relevant, but it's a legendary, not a legendary you'd pick that much. It's really not going to change too much about it, but you know, it might help. And then the last one here, which is a rather significant one, is Hench Clan Burglar. So this is going from a 4 mana 4/3 to a 4 mana 4/4. This is the card that Battlecry discovers a spell from another class. It was, you know, it was a little vulnerable basically because it had 3 health, especially with Knight Captain, right? It made it a little tricky to, or a little risky to draft. But now, I mean, this is just going to be auto pick basically, because it's a 4-mana 4/4 is a lot better than a 4-mana 3/3. So overall, Rogue is getting, I think they're getting the most significant buffs out of all of the classes here. And with that, let's move on to Warlock. So Warlock is having a couple of their cards changed. The first one is Syracuse Cultist. This is the curse giving minion. It's going from a 3-mana 2/3, which was terrible, to a 3-mana 3/4, which is, you know, very pickable. So it's just going to be very nice. It's one of the most common cards with offering bonus. So just having that card go from unpickable to pickable and actually being able to maybe do the curse strategy is going to very much help Warlock. As another one of their cards being buffed is Dragged Below. This is the single target removal. It's going from 4 mana to 3 mana, and it was deal 4 and get a curse. So with these, like, especially early on in the draft, you know, it could definitely change it. It was probably worth just maybe even giving up a little bit of value just to say, like, hey, I'm just going to take this, and maybe I just get a bunch of them. Because if you could very easily in Arena, you know, the funny thing is that you're not limited to 2 copies per card, right? And you might just get 6 of these, and then you might just kill your opponent with curses on like turn 7, right? Kind of honestly terrifying, because this is going to like be a thing that's going to happen now. But yeah, well, it'll be different, I guess. And then the last change we have, which they do categorize as a buff, although I don't think in Arena this really qualifies as a buff too much. They're changing the Sunken Murloc, the one that gives you the Murloc that buffs other Murlocs. They're changing it and its copy from a 3-mana 3/4 to a 2-mana 2/3. Honestly, a 3-mana 3/4 is probably a little better in Arena, so this might even be considered a nerf for Arena, but, you know, overall just not very significant there. And there is one more as well, actually, that the other Murloc is going from a 4-mana 4/4 to a 3-mana 3/4 again, and this is the one that dredges a Murloc. Dredges a card, and if it's a Murloc, you change its cost to health instead of mana. Kind of similar to the curse ones, just kind of making it go from not a card you want to draft to a card that, I mean, you might as well draft it, right? It's just a 3-mana 3/4 dredge. It's pretty good, right? So overall, Warlock again getting some pretty significant buffs here. So again, just as a recap, you know, Warlock getting pretty significant buffs, Rogue getting pretty significant buffs, Priest getting some kind of not so significant buffs, Hunter getting some decent buffs, and a couple changes to Warlock that are probably just going to be like about a wash. So with that, let's move on to the tier list that I had made. I think I made it on the first week of the expansion. This is what we had here. We had Druid way up on the top, a few classes up in tier 2, a couple decent classes, and the 3 classes at the bottom. This is still kind of similar to what it was had. Definitely before the balance changes from 1 or 2 weeks ago, I would have, at that point, I would have definitely had Demon Hunter up here. I maybe would have lowered Rogue. I'm not sure. But otherwise, you know, this would still be pretty accurate, I think. But then what happened is we had those balance changes, which we talked about in a video, which I guess I'll link up here if I remember, which basically didn't change the order of classes all that much. But I'll talk about how I would change it, because basically it just kind of brought everything a little bit closer together, but just not by very much. And the changes along with it also brought, you know, Demon Hunter and Druid down. So the way that I would say is, like, you know, the way I'll display this is, like, I don't think there really is anything up in the amazing category. If you look at like HS Replay, there's nothing above 53%. So I'm just going to take everything down from the amazing category and just show that, you know, we have great classes still, but just nothing that's, you know, nothing stands out right now. And the one thing is, right now, I think Rogue did not get buffed in those changes, and Shaman did, so I think they kind of changed places, and maybe Rogue is still a little bit above Mage. But basically, this is what it was as of before this patch, I think. You have, you know, 4 clear top classes, a couple good classes, and then Warlock you didn't really want, and then 3 classes you really, really didn't want too much. But then, of course, now we have these balance changes, and these balance changes are going to be, especially for a couple of these classes, very significant. I think this will definitely be enough to bring Rogue up to the top level with these other 4 classes, so we may have 5 classes at the top. This might even be significant enough, honestly, to bring Rogue up all the way above everyone else, but I'm not sure. Conservatively for now, we'll see if this changes, but for now I'm just going to keep Rogue at this tier. If you see a bunch of, you know, 12-win Rogue runs by me, then that would be your sign that it probably went up here, but I'm not predicting that right now. And I do think Warlock's going to be buffed enough by those changes, especially with the chance of just completely not rolling a curse deck, that Warlock's going to go up, I think, a tier. And the other class, which I said had pretty significant buffs, was Hunter. I already personally, even though Warlock had the worst win rate on HS Replay, I actually think Warlock was already pretty good. So I'm definitely gonna, with these buffs, I'm definitely gonna move Hunter up into the playable category where Warlock was basically. But I don't think these Priest buffs are significant enough to really move Priest up, so I'm just gonna keep Priest where it is in the awful category. I know some people feel like Priest is alright as it is, but I definitely don't. Maybe it's not my playstyle really right now, especially not with how Priest works right now. So, but yeah, that is it for my tier list update for this patch. I will continue to, I probably won't adjust this. Maybe I'll put a comment if I really feel like something's changed from this, but I don't think things are going to move too much from this. I think this is a pretty safe bet for where things are going to end up. I've seen like some kind of murmurs like the mini set might be coming soon, so there probably aren't going to be any more balance adjustments until the mini set happens. And then of course everything might completely change, but of course we'll keep you updated here if anything does change. But yeah, of course, as always, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks a lot for hanging out. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, comment, all that stuff. But yeah, thanks a lot. We'll see you guys in the next one.